But with Dream Hustle Code, what we try, not only do we kind of mentor them in the beginning process of learning the code, but there are also other lessons that you have to learn outside of coding in order to keep going, because the process of becoming a great coder, it isn't easy. I'm not a great coder. I'm decent, but I'm definitely not the best. I'm still trying to work my way up there. But there are just other skills that you have to learn, such as learning how to build self-confidence, right? You have to have confidence in yourself and have a good self-esteem in order to attack that challenge, as well as overcoming adversity. Like I said, coding isn't pretty, it isn't easy. But if you can understand that there will be challenges that are going to cross your path, or that will come across your path when becoming a coder, and understand how to overcome those adversities, then you'll be fine. And you honestly, I will have no problems, no worries about you being successful.
Okay, so guys, welcome back. We are here for another episode of the ACP Automation Adventure. I think this is going to be one of the coolest episodes that we are going to have. We have Mr. Ian Brock, who is the co-founder of Dream Hustle Code and also the new nerd. Let me tell you guys a little bit about Ian before we get started. This guy is only 16 years old and he's killing it, okay? I'm not going to read too much about his bio. It's amazing. You all need to check him out on his website. But him being a 16-year-old Chicago native, he's, as I mentioned, the co-founder of Dream Hustle Code and New Nerd, computer science activist, speaker, rookie coder, and he's soon to release a book and be an author. That is so amazing. He's completed 50 interviews thus far, probably more than that, especially because we're having this interview now. Some of those interviews include Oprah Winfrey and the Hollywood producer Will Packer. He has also been featured in Forbes, CBS Evening News, Black Enterprise, just to name a few, and also recipient of many awards. As I mentioned, we want to hear from Ian. So I'm going to pause there. Ian, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I really do appreciate it. I'm just looking forward to this interview.
Absolutely. Well, Ian, we're just going to jump in. I want you to fill in the blanks. Some of the spaces that I did not read in your bio. I want to hear it from you. Tell me a little bit about yourself and your journey to where you are today.
Absolutely. Well, you did an amazing job with the bio. I really appreciate it. But obviously, I'm 16 years old. I'm a junior from Chicago. But not only am I a computer science activist and public speaker, as well as an entrepreneur and someone who's writing a book, but I'm also the thing I think that most people forget is I'm still a kid, right? I'm still a normal kid who loves, doing normal activities, who's also goofy at times, but I love the work that I do. With the book that I'm writing, the purpose behind that book was to inspire kids and show them what's possible for them in the futures, and to inspire them to want to be the better versions of themselves. Some of the most amazing interviews I've been able to do, not only with Miss Oprah Winfrey, but Mr. Steve Harvey. But I've also had the opportunity to interview the CEO of Chick-fil-A, Mr. Dan Cathy, as well as the founder of BET, Mr. Bob Johnson. And so I also am the co-founder of Dream Hustle Code, but our mission is to really bring access and opportunity to computer science education to kids who are not only underrepresented in the tech space, but those who are also underestimated as well.
That's awesome. Take me back though a little bit. What initially sparked your interest for computer science? Why computer science?
We would have to go way back.
Take me way back.
All right. So if we take it back to 2013, let's set the story. I was 8 years old and I was in third grade. And so it actually started with a video that my mom found. So she was just scrolling on Facebook and she saw that Mark Zuckerberg had made a post which included this video. The title of the video was called "What Most Schools Don't Teach." And so it talked about the importance of tech and coding and how it was the future. And so my mom was like, Ian, you have to check out this video. We got to watch it together. And mind you, it was 9:30. It was 9:30 p.m. I was doing my homework and I had school the next morning. So I was already cranky and tired. I just wanted to go to sleep. And so, being a mom, we ended up watching the video anyway. And my initial reaction, it wasn't necessarily the best, I would say. At first, I thought it was boring, number one. And number two, I didn't really see anybody who looked like me, right? So I couldn't really relate to all of the individuals who were speaking in the video. Even though they were high profile people, I just couldn't relate to them. But then all of a sudden, two-time NBA champ, former Miami Heat legend, Mr. Chris Bosh, he came on the video and started talking about his experiences with coding and how he thought coding was cool. And it really grabbed my attention. I ended up watching that video over and over and over again. My mom and I go back and forth about this all the time. She says I watched it 10 times. I say I watched it 3 times. But it really just shows that because I saw somebody who looked like me, not only that, but somebody who played my favorite sport and just so happened to be one of my favorite basketball players at the time, that's what really caught my attention. And the fact that he said coding was cool, it was like, oh man, maybe I should start paying attention to this and start taking it seriously. And so my parents, because they saw I had that reaction, they thought, how many other kids will have a similar reaction or even react the exact same way? So fast forward to the end of that year, December 2013. This was actually during Computer Science Education Week, and Code.org was hosting their first event called the Hour of Code event, which is just an intro to coding event. It teaches you the basics of coding using block coding. And so we hosted this event at my school, and we invited another school from the south side of Chicago to join us. And it was a fantastic event. I'm telling you, everybody had a great time. I think we even had the CEO and founder, Mr. Hadi Partovi, to Skype in. This was back when Skype was, popular amongst everybody, but everybody had a great time. And so over the weekend, my friends actually continued the lessons that they had learned from the event and started doing it at home. And so a bunch of parents started emailing us, calling us, and even texting us saying, what is this coding thing? And why is my kid so intrigued with it? And so they were all super excited. We received so much feedback. And then a couple parents started reaching out to us and asking, okay, what's next? What are you going to do next? And so that's when we kind of thought about, okay, we know we got to do something in coding because obviously we just received some positive feedback. So we decided to create a nonprofit to focus on bringing access and opportunity to kids who are not only underrepresented, but also underestimated in the tech space.
And this event, say it again, it's called Code of.
It's hosted by Code.org, started by Code.org, but it's called the Hour of Code event.
The Hour of Code event. And they're still hosting those events. Is that something that they do nationwide, or is that just in Chicago?
Yeah, they host that globally. They host it. If you actually go to their website, code.org, they have a bunch of information, a bunch of stats about not only computer science, but about their history and a couple other resources where you can start learning how to code as well.
Oh, that's excellent. So our listeners definitely need to go check out code.org and check out the Hour of Code event. So we got into a little bit of your mission. I understand the vision just from understanding and seeing your passion, well, really feeling your passion about this. Tell me, before we wrap up this section, where can we receive further information about Dream Hustle Code?
So if you follow us on social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, you can follow us at Dream Hustle Code, as well as you go to our website. If you go to www.dreamhustlecode.com, you can find more information about the work that we do, some news, our upcoming events, as well as our story.
That is awesome. You guys, this guy has got it going on. Look, I'm going to be careful. I'm not going to call you a kid. I really think that you might be about 30 years older than what you're saying. So
that's why I got to remind people I'm still a kid. I'm still a teenager.
Absolutely. I'm sure you have to remind yourself too, because you can get so engrossed in this. I mean, it's written all over you. This is your passion and this is your purpose. And I think that is awesome. Ian just sat here with us, and he gave us a little bit about his bio. And when I say a little bit, that's just a taste of his background. Again, you guys really got to check this kid out. And also just the mission where they're providing these opportunities and resources to these underprivileged communities, similar to what we do here with ACP and A Step in STEM. And also the inspiration behind creating Dream Hustle Code was when he watched that YouTube video and he saw Chris Bosch talking about coding, and he was able to relate because that person looked like him and he thought it was so cool. I think that's probably one of the most important things that we discuss in this first segment. And you guys, again, check them out on dreamhustlecode.com and all social media platforms. Ian, before we wrap this section up, any last comments?
I just want to say thank you so much, and I'm super excited with the work we're doing in the future. If you just stay tuned, because it's a lot of amazing work that we're going to be bringing out in the world.
Absolutely. We are back from our short break. We have Mr. Ian Brock, who's the co-founder of Dream Hustle Code and New Nerd. You know what? Tell me a little bit about New Nerd. I know we're here to talk about Dream Hustle Code, but because you're still the co-founder of that, tell us briefly what is New Nerd?
All right, so New Nerd is a movement that was to reshape the narrative of what it means to be smart. See, when many people think of what a nerd is, most people will probably say somebody who's really smart but very socially awkward, big bulky glasses, always in the book or always on the computer. But we wanted to change that narrative so kids and other people can feel comfortable being smart. Yes, it's cool. It's okay for you to be smart in school, but also learn how to code. But you can also be cool and love sports, love music, love fashion, love shoes. It's the best of both worlds. And so New Nerd is the movement of combining those two worlds into making the nerd into a new nerd.
Okay, that's pretty cool. And when you say comfortable, as soon as I think of that word, I'm thinking you have to feel comfortable within your skin. So
Right.
being who you are as this new nerd movement, I think that is so dope. That is so cool. I just wanted our listeners to understand what that was before we continue.
Absolutely.
So we talked about as before, we talked about the mission, the vision of Dream Hustle Code. We got into the inspiration behind its inception. Now I want to talk about, well, what are some of the skills and subject areas that students will experience being a part of Dream Hustle Code and coding in general? So if you could give us an overview of some of the prerequisite subjects or subjects that they learn while they're a part of Dream Hustle Code coding. I think we need to focus first on just coding the field of focus. Like, what are those subject areas that students should be learning or will learn as they're entering into coding?
Right. So obviously when you're trying to get into coding, to start off, you should learn the basics of reading, writing, math, and science. Honestly, you don't need to know trigonometry, calculus just to get into coding. You just need to know how to add, subtract, multiply, divide, and know how to read and write. So the entry the to enter into coding is you just need to know those basics. But when you get into learning coding, it really kind of challenges your thinking and really improves your problem solving skills. See, when you have to code, it's not really just, oh, you have to do this, you have to do that. You have to more so think outside the box, because coding isn't pretty all the time, right? You're gonna run into some challenges, you're going to run into some difficulties, and it's not always going to be an ABCD problem. Sometimes you got to go from A to E to Z back to B, and it's all over the place. But it challenges you to think critically and to try and think outside the box to solve a problem. But with Dream Hustle Code, what we try, not only do we kind of mentor them in the beginning process of learning the code, but there are also other lessons that you have to learn outside of coding in order to keep going, because the process of becoming a great coder, it isn't easy. I'm not a great coder. I'm decent, but I'm definitely not the best. I'm still trying to work my way up there. But there are just other skills that you have to learn, such as learning how to build self-confidence, right? You have to have confidence in yourself and have a good self-esteem in order to attack that challenge, as well as overcoming adversity. Like I said, coding isn't pretty, it isn't easy. But if you can understand that there will be challenges that are going to cross your path, or that will come across your path when becoming a coder, and understand how to overcome those adversities, then you'll be fine. And you honestly, I will have no problems, no worries about you being successful. As well as some of the things we focus on is goal setting. What goals do you want to have? Because if you can have a big vision, but if you don't have goals, then there's going to be no purpose and there's going to be no focus, as well as time management, right? You want to be able to understand how to manage your time, because again, if you're not organized, everything is going to be super chaotic and it's just going to be overwhelming. And when you become overwhelmed, you get frustrated, and sometimes it leads to people quitting. So just those basic skills, again, math, science, reading, writing, as well as those other personal development skills outside of technology, all of those combined are very important, especially if you want to become a coder or just any field in life.
That's wonderful. It's just good to know for our listeners, if you're unfamiliar with what that, I guess, very next step, that's more of what I really want to focus on. It's like, okay, I'm familiar with the term coding. How do I jump into it? I love that you said, look, if you can just have a pen and paper, you know how to read, and you have basic math skills, you can enter into coding as well as get involved with Dream Hustle Code. I think that's awesome. So let's talk about a little bit of the resources. What resources does Dream Hustle Code offer its students?
Right. So we've hosted since our inception in 2013. We've done various events. Like I mentioned before, we've hosted multiple hour of code events. Again, which are intro to computer or intro to coding events. We've hosted this every single year since we started back in 2013, except for this year because obviously Corona, we can't do that in person. But our biggest event was last year. We hosted an hour of code event at Google's headquarters in Chicago with 300 students. And we even got the governor of Illinois to attend, as well as Congressman Davis and even Reverend Jesse Jackson to attend that event as well. And we've also hosted coding camps. We've hosted in-person coding camps. Back in 2014, we hosted one where we were teaching them the basics of coding, as well as some sprinkled in a little bit of entrepreneurship. We have partnerships with McDonald's, Jimmy John's, Target, Microsoft, and others as well. And we also have coding camp, personal development, and coding camps online. Because of when COVID hit back in March, we knew that there was going to be a lot of kids who are going to be out of school with nothing to do. So I decided to host a computer science and personal development camp for kids from 5th through 9th grade to not only teach them the basics of computer science or the basics of coding, but to also get their minds right. See, one thing that I understand is you can have all the skills in the world. You can be the most intelligent. You can be the smartest person in the world. But if your mind isn't right, you won't go anywhere, right? It's like having the fastest jet in the world with no pilot.
Absolutely. You are so on target with that. And I'm looking at you, I'm like, so your bio says speaker. You're definitely going to be a motivational speaker. You are a motivational speaker. You're here to see the child through, not just enter into it, but you want to see them through to actually obtain this career, continue pursuing their dreams and their passions in coding. I think that's awesome. And you're absolutely right. It's that's that's something that you don't attack lightly. I think it is what it is, what I just stated. You have to attack that in the child. You have to motivate them, and these challenges that you have to overcome.
I've been through it.
Yes, yes. You're still going through it yourself. So I think that's amazing. Just being able to, as you are growing, developing, experiencing, that is the true definition of firsthand experience and experiences and wisdom that you're passing along. And that is awesome. Let's go a little bit deeper. The resources, we were talking about a little bit of the virtual, what was that? The virtual learning spaces that you all currently have set up. How's that been going? Like with the pandemic going on, as you said, you guys weren't able to join together for some of these events in person, but virtual learning is that is I mean coding is a part of technology. So was that transition difficult? Was it easy? How was that?
Honestly, it was a smooth shockingly, it was very smooth because we thought we were going to have a difficult time in the beginning simply because everyone was going to be online. We just didn't know how it was going to go because it was new. But once we started getting in the hang of things, it was very smooth because not only was it everyone was online, so there was no need for us to be in person, but it also gave us the opportunity to expand it and be able to onboard even more kids as opposed to being in person. Because when you're in person, there's only so many people you can help at once. Online, you can have millions of people. If you think about the gaming industry, right? All of that is being streamed online, being broadcasted to millions, possibly even billions of people, right? So because of Corona, it really just gave us the opportunity to expand upon what we were already working on and just take it into the virtual space and online.
Where are some of your students located?
So we've had students, I believe, from 26 different states, and actually even more, 26 plus states. We've even had kids from Canada, from Africa, and a couple kids from Asia as well, specifically the Philippines. So we're global now, which is amazing. But it's truly been a blessing to be able to not only reach that broad of an audience, but to also inspire that many kids. Because instead of limiting ourselves to just Chicago and limiting ourselves to only being in person, we're able to reach, or I'm able to reach so many more kids by simply being online.
Absolutely. You had a dream. You created this organization. You guys been hustling, sounds like, during the pandemic, and now you're coding globally. That is awesome. I love it. Congratulations, because that's huge. That's huge that you are impacting now such a broad span of lives, and I think that's so exciting. And I have one more question for you for this section before we wrap up. We talked about the skills and the subject areas that you involve your youth in and your students globally. But through this process, you also, again, learning and going through your personal journey. What can you rank out some of the skills that you personally have learned or you're continuing to learn, and your skill set that you're continuing to hone as the co-founder of this awesome organization?
Yeah, that's it's kind of a little hard to just limit it to a few because I've learned a lot. But some of the information that, or some of the lessons I've learned through working with Dream Hustle Code and co-founding it, I kind of was already shared that information when I was younger. See, my parents, I started my personal development journey when I was 4 years old. My parents had so much knowledge and information at it, and they just shared it with me. They threw it at me and told me to start working on it. So I started with watching motivational videos, watching YouTube videos, as well as reading motivational books and doing other activities. But some of those lessons I learned with working with Dream Hustle Code kind of started before then. But I will say that because, especially this year, because of Corona, it's really taught me to focus in on the lessons and really apply them. Because it's one thing to know something, but it's a different to apply it. And so I think some of the few lessons, and I know a lot of people say this a lot, but working hard, that's definitely something that I truly not only learned but understood, right? Because I took it to a
Right.
whole different level. I knew that I had to work extremely harder if I wanted to accomplish all of my goals and be able to reach as many people as I could. Also learning how to manage my time. It's crazy because we actually got a lot more busier after COVID. And so it really forced me to, all right, you have a lot of stuff on your plate. You have to organize it or it's going to be chaotic and you're going to lose everything. So I had to force myself, or not really force myself because I was already doing it, but really take it to another level on learning or understanding how to manage my time, as well as being fearless, right? I think that's another thing that not only I struggle with, but other people I've struggled with is having that fear. But one thing that I understand, or the one thing that I learned, is that if you're afraid of something, just go do it, attack it head on. Because the worst thing that could happen is A, it doesn't happen, or if you're talking to somebody, B, they're gonna say no. It's not like you're gonna get punched in the face. It's not like you're gonna get your toes cut off. You're gonna be fine if you just attack that fear that you have head on. Then everything will sort itself out.
That is awesome. I think our through theme for this episode is that word attack. I don't know where that's coming from, but we are, look, listeners, we are out here with Ian and we are attacking our goals and completing these objectives. Ian, thank you so much. We just had an awesome time discussing some of the skills and subject areas involved in coding. And Ian mentioned that, if you have basic reading and math skills, just come on. Enter into the world of coding. You are welcome. And then some of the other skills that his students learn being a part of Dream Hustle Code are one thing outside of the box. I love that you listed that first. That's probably first and foremost. And then also building self-confidence, setting goals. What is your individual vision, time management, and the list goes on. And then we discuss some of the resources that Dream Hustle Code offers, some of which being hosting events, coding events, and one of them being that event that they were able to host at Google, coding camps, virtual learning. And then last but not least, Ian, the 16-year-old, what are the skills that he's personally learning through his journey of being the co-founder of this organization? Well, he said he started his journey when he was 4 years old, okay? At a very young age, listened to motivational speaking, listened to his parents, which we like to call STEM champions. His STEM champions in his life are his mother and his dad, truly. And also, he lists a lot of the skills that he is honing in on, but the key is that he's applying them now. So Ian is now truly understanding these lessons. And with all of that being said, I like that we ended it with be fearless. Ian, thank you so much. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. And we are back from our last break of this episode. Mr. Ian Brock, co-founder of Dream Hustle Code and new nerd. I'm just going to say hashtag new nerd. I just love the way that sounds. It's so awesome. Ian, how are you doing so far with this episode?
I'm doing pretty good. It's been a pretty smooth interview. I really enjoyed the questions, and I'm just looking forward for the next one.
Yes, we're going to wrap this up. And it's funny that you say pretty smooth because I think complete opposite about what your workload looks like day to day. And having discussions with you all and prepping you to come onto our show. We're so grateful to have you here, just sharing with us the awesome things that you're doing within your community, within the world. And so I'd love for you to just take us through, what does that typical day look like for you?
Okay. Well, before I share that, I just want to let everyone know that I am homeschooled, so I'm able to be more flexible. So if you wanted to, like, I don't know, take some notes on what I'm about to say, understand that I am homeschooled, so it allows me to be more flexible and be able to do more tasks and carry more things on my plate. But where should I start? All right. So I'm literally going to take you through my entire schedule. It took me a couple years to figure out what I'm going to do and schedule out what I'm doing at certain times. But let's see. So usually I wake up at about 6. I didn't wake up that early today because the Lakers won yesterday, so I was up all night. But I usually wake up at 6, and I start off my day saying my prayers, giving thanks to God for about 5 minutes. And then up until 6:30, I prepare, get ready for my day, brush my teeth, eat an apple or eat something, and then put on my clothes because I'm preparing for my workout. And so from 6:30 to 7:30, I usually work out, whether it be I'm doing strength training or I go ride on my bike for a couple miles. And then so from 7:30, that concludes my workout. From 7:30 to about 8:30, that's when I take a shower again, brush my teeth, and just get ready to attack the day head on. From 8:30 to 9, I make sure I eat something. Maybe it's a smoothie or I make breakfast. And then 9 o'clock is really when my day starts. And so from 9 to about, I want to say from 9 to 2-ish, that's when I'm able to do some of my schoolwork. And so, that includes, whatever is math, science, history, language, just doing my schoolwork. And then from 2 to about 3 o'clock, sometimes I might have meetings. Sometimes I might have other phone calls I might have to do. And really it all depends because sometimes I don't even do school because I have so many meetings or I have to respond to some emails or I have to respond to certain individuals. So it really depends on the day, but this is just a normal day. And so at about 3:30, so about 3:30 is when I actually start my coding classes. So we're actually in the middle of our third week for our computer science and personal development camp. And so I do my classes from 3:30 to 5. And then from about 5 to 7:30, I try and, get a little bit more work done, whether it be with business, maybe try and read a book or do educate myself in financial literacy, whatever else it is. And then from 7, if not, I'm chilling for the rest of the day, watching YouTube, maybe playing a couple video games or going out and riding my bike again. So I tend to wrap my day up at about 7:30, and then eat dinner and try and be in the bed by about 10 o'clock. So that's a normal day if there's nothing else to do when it comes to business. If there is business, it tends to, I have to reschedule a couple things just to make sure I can fit everything in.
Yeah. That sounds like a jam-packed and very productive day. And I wanted our listeners to hear what that schedule looks like, especially our younger audiences listening in, because like you said, that new nerd, I'm so on that. Just understanding that it's so important to be yourself. It's so important to still incorporate all of the things that you would do in your normal day to day, alongside of focusing and studying and focusing and doing your studies. I think that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And hopefully some of our listeners too will adapt some of your good habits because you wake up. I do the same. I wake up early, sometimes 5, 6 in the morning, depending on exactly what you said. You never know what comes up early in the morning you have to prepare for. So if you start your day right, you'll be able to finish it and, as you said, enjoy the rest of the evening. So let's talk about some of those challenges that you face in running this business. And as you said, you have a jam-packed schedule on a normal day. I mean, you're a student, homeschooled. What are some of these challenges and how do you overcome them?
I think my challenges may be a little bit different than others. Some things that I do kind of face is I tend to put a lot of pressure on myself for no reason. I don't know why I do that. And so like when I sometimes the only way for me to overcome that is really what I learned this year is I started doing meditation, started meditating, and I just started taking some time to myself to clear my mind because again, if your mind isn't right, you're not going to be able to do anything else. You need to have a clear mind, a focused mind in order to attack the day head on. And then also, it being in the, I guess, kind of the business of an entrepreneur, um, it tends to get lonely, right? Especially when we're in Corona, everybody's quarantined, everybody's at home, or I'm at least I'm at home a lot. It tends to get lonely, and so you just have to understand. One thing that I tell myself is that if I just continue to work hard now, and if I keep going, eventually I'll be able to accomplish all my goals and my dreams and be able to help others. And so that's really what pushes me forward. It's weird because I used to play basketball, right? One of the players I used to study all the time was Kobe. Rest in peace, Kobe. And so when he passed away, it was weird because every time I started doing a task, I could hear his voice telling me to keep going and to keep working hard because that was his whole, his whole message was having that Mamba mentality. And so I kind of just applied that, and just every time I feel like, am I doing the right thing? I just remind myself, look, you got to keep going. If you keep working hard, keep pushing, no matter how tough it gets, eventually you'll get there. And then the last thing, sometimes, I do is a little bit of a challenge, but I've kind of figured out a way to overcome it. Was it tends to get chaotic, because there's a lot just going on in the world. But again, it's just you have to take some of that me time to yourself, right? Just taking that time alone, clearing your thoughts, meditating, or going out for a bike ride, or if you like playing sports, playing a certain sport. But it does get chaotic. It feels like there's just a lot being thrown at you at once. But if you just learn how to manage your time right, organize, figure out what your priorities are, figure out what it is that you have to do, plan it out, and then execute. That's what really helps me to organize everything that just is being thrown at me at once.
It's so interesting. I keep hearing this mama mentality. So, okay, I hate to say this, but I'm going to say it. Let's just get over it. So, I enjoy sports. Growing up, I probably did 10 sports myself, but I'm not really an avid, well, I'm not an avid TV watcher anyways, but I didn't even know a lot about Kobe Bryant. I knew of him, of course, but I didn't know a lot about him. But that Mamba mentality, I knew about that before I knew more about Kobe, which I guess innately means I know a little bit about Kobe. But I that's how strong that mantra, that way of life is. And I love that you're so focused on the change of the mindset. That is so important. If your mind is not strong, then you will not produce the work that you need to produce in your day to day.
So,
And
like, one more thing, I hate to interrupt, but one more
no,
thing I
you're
want to add
fine.
is, it was in the beginning of COVID. The classes I'm doing now, I'm only doing an hour and a half a day. But there was a time for like 20, 24 weeks straight, I was doing classes for 5 hours straight from 11 a.m. to about 4 p.m. every single day, Monday through Friday. And so I was getting tired. Sometimes I didn't even, I forgot I had classes. Sometimes I wish I didn't have any. I wanted to sleep in all day. But it really, again, it's that mama mentality, right? You have to continue to push yourself. And the same lessons that I learned from playing sports and doing martial arts, I just applied it into the business world or into doing Dream Hustle Code and understanding that, again, if you just put your head down, keep working hard and attack your goals head on, it'll all sort itself out. But man, there were days where I was just like, I want to go to sleep. I don't want to wake up today. I just want to stay in bed. But it did pay off. I will say that.
That sounds like that you had one of those moments, like you said this morning, after you stayed up watching the finals. That's awesome. It's so great. It's so wonderful, to talk about your parents and the way that we have and the way that they're able to impart their knowledge and their experiences on you at such a young age. And I just think my heart breaks when I think about so many of our youth who don't have a person like that, again, who we call our STEM champions, to really be their champion in their lives, for their mentality, for their mental health, for their educational pathways. I want to talk about, from your perspective, what do you see, whether it's in your students or just observing the world? What are the challenges that, students as a whole face when they're interested in pursuing a STEM career? Maybe they're in it, but they're having certain challenges. What are those?
That's a good one. I think there's two different challenges tend to that I notice a lot. One of them is I think a lot of people get a little bit frustrated with the process, especially when it comes to learning the code, and they think that they're not going fast enough, and they're not under getting the process fast enough, and they think they're going too slow. And so the other one is many people get frustrated with the process, and it gets very difficult because yeah, learning how to code, it's like one thing that you have to understand. Well, the challenge is they get frustrated because it gets difficult, and then many of us want to quit because it feels so overwhelming. But one thing I think that a lot of people should really, I guess, take into consideration is when you're starting your journey into learning the code or just learning anything, is that this is something foreign to you. This is something new. It's like learning a whole new language or learning a new culture. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be tough. It's going to be very difficult. But again, if you just come in a mindset of no matter what challenges I face, no matter how difficult it gets, keep going, because you're gonna have many regrets if you quit. You're gonna be like, man, what if I didn't quit? What if I would have just stuck to it? What would have happened? What opportunities would have presented itself? And so, yeah, but the thing is, you got to remember when you're learning the code, you're learning something brand new. Think about it like this: most people, when they start anything, they're not going to be superstars at it. It takes hours and hours of dedication and hard work and time and effort putting into that craft in order for them to be great. You look at finals yesterday. You look at LeBron. Though he isn't great because he was just naturally gifted. I mean, he did receive some God gifted abilities, but he put in hours and hours of time into his craft. That's the reason why he's so great. That's the reason why he's considered to be one of the GOATs, right? It's because he put in that time, put in that energy. So whenever like those two challenges that you come across, just the more time you put into it, the better you'll get. That's just the law of the universe. If you put in more time and energy into something, then you have to get better. That's simple. And so, yeah, though, that's really just one of the lessons. And I think, I can share about one story from one of my classes. I had a student one time. And this was kind of the lesson of not giving up. I had a student named Jacob, and so he was stuck on, and we use this coding application called Grasshopper, and so he was stuck on one project for a good 3 days, right? He was super frustrated. I remember one of the days he told me, he was like, "Look, Ian, I'm about to quit this class. I'm leaving. I'm not coming back." I said, "Look, you can't." I said, Jacob, calm down. First of all, I want you to take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. I said, "Look, you don't want to give up in this one because I guarantee you're going to live life with regret. And that is one thing that you do not want to live life with. You're going to regret and think to yourself, what would have happened if I would have just stuck with it? What would have happened if I would have just kept going? Who knows?" And so by quitting, not only if you quit in one area in life, then you'll quit in other areas in life. So don't even start that habit. No matter if it just gets tough, just keep going, because eventually you have to get it. Nothing lasts forever, good nor evil. So you might be stuck in this one area now, but I guarantee you eventually you have to get past it. So, I mean, and this happened multiple times with multiple students, but eventually, I think it was on that fourth day, he finally was able to accomplish it. And he was in chase, and I finished the project. And I was so happy for him. We ended up celebrating. But yeah, it just goes to show, that story alone just goes to show, if you keep going, even like when you're stuck on something, you got to remind yourself that nothing lasts forever, good nor evil. And if you just keep going, then eventually you will find success, or success will find you. Simple.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. It is simple. The work is hard. The journey is hard. The concept is simple. And I think it's even more simple because we have an awesome role model like yourself who's showing these students you're living it, so they have no excuses. I think that is probably that's the thing, that's the nail in the coffin, is look, I'm in it with you. Okay, we're in the trenches together. I think that's what makes this so special. And Ian, I just want to say thank you so much for just doing what you're doing. Is so the work that you're doing, I know that is sort of what we discussed earlier about you knowing the skills, but applying it. I think that it's going to hit you so much deeper in a few more years. It's going to hit you so hard, the level of impact that you're doing, even just with one student, that student, Jacob. Oh my goodness. Just wait till he comes back in a few years and says, "Hey, I've got a job in X and X, and this is, my scope of work." Just wait on that moment. You're going to be just,
And
wow.
that lesson alone, it can be applied not only in tech, it can be applied in sports, it can be applied in entrepreneurship, it can be applied at somebody working at a job.
Mm-hmm.
Anywhere, that lesson, it transcends in every field across the world. And so if you just apply that, and this goes for everybody, no matter what you do in life, if you just apply that lesson alone of not giving up and just keep going, I promise you, it worked for me. I'm a living testament to this. It will come to pass, and you will find some sort of success.
And this was awesome. This last section, we talk about your typical day. Look, from sometimes 5, 6 in the morning, all the way till 10 o'clock at night, and how you're homeschooled. That's allowing you to be a little bit more flexible in scheduling and rearranging your schedule. And we talked about some of the challenges that you're facing as being the co-founder of this organization, some of which are, you put a lot of stress and pressure on yourself, and the way that you overcome that is through meditation and taking time for yourself. That's so key. And I think the sooner that we learn to do those two things, incorporate those two things in our lives, it'll help us to get to the last piece of advice that you gave us, which is to not give up. If we can add these tools that Ian has discussed with us today and incorporate some of them into our lives, I think that'll motivate definitely the youth to keep going, not give up. And also put in, like you said, the more time that you put in, you will be successful. That, you're going to get out what you put in, as you mentioned. And students, the last thing we discussed was challenges that these students are facing. You said there were two things that they're facing. One, just overall being frustrated with the process, them not feeling like they're going fast enough. And then two, overwhelming feeling that the students get, and almost to the point where they want to quit. So, Ian, thank you again for these awesome tools and the way that you are really motivating and inspiring these students to not give up. That is so key. Ian, before we leave, can you give us one more time the social media handles as well as where we can maybe donate, get involved, volunteer for Dream Hustle Code?
Absolutely. So all information, Dream Hustle Code, as far as you want to find news, keep updated, or just hear our story as well as donate, you can go to www.dreamhustlecode.com. Also on our social medias, you can follow our work at Dream Hustle Code on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Also, every other Thursday from I believe for the rest of the year, we will be hosting a new nerd speaker series. All right, it's an event where we take on or have a special guest, a successful individual come on our series, and I get a chance to interview them, and they get a chance to share us their secrets to success as well as how they got there and how they overcame adversity and challenges to get to where they are today. Some guests that we've had in the past include the founder of BET, Mr. Bob Johnson, as well as two-time NBA champ, Mr. Chris Bosh. We even had Mr. R. Donahue Peebles and also Mr. John Hope Bryant and a host of others, as well as Miss Nina Vaca, who is the first Latina with a $1 billion corporation and the CEO of. So we have so many guests in the past, and we have so many amazing guests coming up in the future. So stay tuned to that. Make sure to go to our website to find that out. And also, if you want to follow my personal Instagram, it is Ian__Brock.
That is awesome. Ian, you are awesome. You rock. We can't wait to have you back on our show to catch up with you and see what you got going on and a little bit in the future. But until then, you enjoy the rest of your week. And thank you so much. We will talk with you soon.
Thank you for having me, Miss Haynes.